What is good, Raider Nation, man? It is your boy Sanjit. I am fired up, man. I am absolutely fired up here. The Raiders came back against Baltimore Ravens. They're close enough over the course of this game. Gardner Minshew catches fire in the second half, and the Las Vegas Raiders win this game. Brock Bowers, Devontae Adams, man, these guys were unstoppable in that second half. The defense did their thing, and we're gonna talk about this one, man. What a win, man. I'm excited for this one, man. Let's talk about this. First and foremost, man, shout out to the Las Vegas Raiders defense. Shout out to the Las Vegas Raiders quarterback and receivers. Those guys did a phenomenal job. And AP also did a really, really good job down the stretch. There was a moment where some people were questioning that fourth down call that the Raiders went for it. I think the Raiders were down 2 scores at that point. The Raiders went for it. He threw it to Devontae Adams. It was kind of a underthrown pass. Hits Devontae in the hands, but it was underthrown. And essentially, most people probably checked out of the game at that point. Already down 2 possessions, but the Raiders stuck with it. The defense gets a 3 and out. A bad punt. The Raiders go right downfield, and they're able to kick a field goal and get points on the board. What a great game, man. I'm so fired up for this one. Let's talk about this, man. Let's talk about this. Shout out to the over 300 people that are already here. There's a jersey giveaway as well that's going to be going on Twitter. So I shouldn't say I've already picked the winner, but there's a software that I use that'll stop the tweet at a certain point. So I've already stopped the tweet, so no new people can at this point retweet and be eligible for a jersey. But we're gonna be doing a jersey giveaway on this channel as well. I'll probably announce that tomorrow in tomorrow's video. I'm excited, man. I'm so excited. I'm so fired up for this one. Shout out to 58. He said we did it, Raiders, or we did it, Sanjit Raider Nation for life. 88. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to the over almost 500 people already live. Minshew is gonna give me a heart attack. Just win, baby. Man, Gardner Minshew's he's an absolute crazy quarterback. I'm gonna pull his stats up. So overall, Gardner Minshew was 30 of 38, 276 yards, a touchdown and an interception. But in the second half, man, this guy caught fire. And I'm gonna pull his stats up here for the second half. But when you think about what the Raiders did in this game, I did not think this game was going to be a winning game for the Raiders. Early on, our offense was terrible. To start the game, man, Colton Miller gives up a sack on I think it was the first play of the game. He gets beat by the second or third year linebacker, Dafe of the Ravens. He ends up getting beat, sack on the quarterback. We went 3 and out, punted the football. And I think even on the next drive, we end up giving up another sack. I think Miller ends up blocking down with the left guard. They end up blocking the same guy. And you get a guy that comes free, ultimately getting to the quarterback. You continue the game. Thayer Munford gives up 2 sacks. It's actually crazy that the Raiders were able to get this win, considering the fact that our quarterback situation, our offensive line situation was kind of shaky. But they were able to pull the win, man. And really, it was in the second half, right? In the second half, Gardner Minshew's stats were incredible. 16 of 22, 73% completion percentage, 212 yards, and a touchdown. And of course, I think the biggest stat of all of that is the points that the Raiders scored in the second half. We officially put up 20 points in the second half. That's absolutely incredible, man. It's absolutely incredible. I'm so excited for this one. Big shout out, man, to Brock Bowers as well as to Devontae Adams. Those 2 guys absolutely carried the Raiders. There was a point in this game where it was like 3rd and long, and no one was open. Gardner Minshew rolls to his right. He throws it up there, and Brock Bowers comes out of nowhere and catches it at like the 5-6 yard line, and then he's able to carry the Ravens defenders all the way down to the 1 yard line, and then Alexander Madison punches it in from the 1 yard line. That was probably the play that I think flipped this game, because the Raiders were still down at that point, I believe by 2 touchdowns. So they needed 2 scoring, 2 possessions. So I think they needed to score at that point, and we were able to actually get in there. And Brock Bowers, 9 catches, 98 yards. He's a superstar, man. I see why Tom Telesco took him. I also see why Sean McVay wanted him so badly. I watched that Rams or I watched that Netflix series of the NFL draft, and Sean McVay was like, hey, let's give up, whatever it takes, an extra second, If that's what it takes to get Brock Bowers, and I see why he wanted him, man. Brock Bowers is absolutely incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. Man, I'm excited for this one. Raiders, man, we're one of one, or one and one, and next week we have a absolute winnable game coming up here against the Panthers. Panthers are 0-2. The Panthers got crushed by the Chargers as well. So, the next 4 games are all winnable, man. Let's be real here. The Las Vegas Raiders are a legit team. I know we lost to the Chargers last week. Our offense had some issues. The offense line was a little inconsistent, but the Chargers are also a good team, right? The Chargers went to the Panthers and they beat the crap out of the Panthers. So, the Raiders have another winnable game next week. We can easily be 2-1 going into that Browns game. The Browns also aren't that good. We got the Broncos after that. They're also not that good. The Steelers have some quarterback issues. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm trying to calm down a little bit, man. But I'm excited, man. We're going to talk about this. Tupac said our offensive line sucks. Still sucks. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the offensive line. We're going to get into all of that today, man. I'm just trying to catch my breath a little bit. Shout out to David Scott. He says, as much as I love Aiden O'Connell, as bad as our O-line was, he would have been sacked a lot more. This is a fact. The first thing we got to understand is once you go to Aiden O'Connell, you can't go back. All right. Once you bench Gardner Minshew, you can't go the other way and say, hey, Aiden O'Connell doesn't look good after 4 weeks. Let's go back to Gardner Minshew. It's not going to work like that. Once you make that decision, you've made that decision. And yeah, it's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. So I'm excited for the fact that Gardner Minshew was able to step up and get it done, because the Ravens on the defense side were legit, right? And we saw that in the first half. We had absolutely no success running the football. For the most of the game, we had no success running the football. But the Raiders were able to keep it close. The defense kept it close. And our offensive line had some losing snaps, but they were able to hold up in the second half a lot better. I think Gardner Minshew was sacked still twice in the second half. I think both sacks came against Thayer Munford. But I do feel like in the second half, he might actually have been sacked a third time as well. I think Court Miller and Cody Whitehair may have also given up a sack on some sort of defensive line game. But our offensive line looked a lot better in that second half. And maybe it was because we got away from the run game a little bit and we just kind of spread it out a little bit. We let Gardner Minshew, Brock Bowers, Devontae Adams kind of do their thing. That's the way the Raiders got to play going forward. I know we want to be a run-first team, but if the run game's not working, we got to throw the ball more, right? We got to be able to pick up 4, 5, 6 yards through the air, or just get some screen passes going, right? Get some easy yards and just keep the chains going. The last thing the Raiders could do is kind of get stuck in 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s, because I think our offensive line at that point could potentially break down. Yeah, man, I'm excited for Gardner Minshew. I'm absolutely excited for that. Offense finally caught fire. I had to go and buy a Bowers jersey. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to you. I'm definitely going to get myself a Brock Bowers jersey as well. I think the next week's Twitter jersey giveaway will probably be related to Brock Bowers. I usually let the person that wins pick their own jersey, because there was a guy that won, I think last year at some point, and he got a Tyree Wilson jersey. And looking back at that, like, that sucks for that guy. He was telling me this is his first Raiders jersey. He's actually in Mexico City, and he had told me that a Raider jersey is not something they'd ever spend money on, right? But yeah, so anyways, man, I'm excited, man. I'm very, very, very excited. Another interesting thing with the Raiders offense that I actually personally like was we weren't running concepts and then waiting for those concepts to develop. One of the things that I felt like the Raiders did was they just got their playmakers the ball. Devontae Adams ran a couple of routes on the left sideline where it was just him against I think Il Stevens, the Baltimore Ravens right cornerback. And Gardner Minshew just threw the ball up, and Devontae Adams made some plays. There was a moment where the Baltimore Ravens, I think they ran a cover 0 blitz where essentially both linebackers blitzed, and Gardner Minshew made the perfect pass to Devontae Adams. He dropped it, unfortunately, but it would have been a touchdown. And I felt like the Raiders kind of simplified it a little bit in the second half, right? We got away from running the screens that Luke Getsy's kind of known for, right? Like those quick screens. Early on in the game, people were criticizing Getsy. He did a play action to one of our running backs. The running back went towards the left, and Minshew rolled to the right, and then he threw a screen pass back towards the left. although it's not a bad play, I think that's one of those plays that teams kind of know now and kind of expect. I think that was a good play a couple of years back. Let's get more into some of these super chats. I see a comment. Shout out to you. You were at the game. Shout out to you, man. What a great game to have went to. And we beat a great team, man. We absolutely did beat a great team. This Ravens team's well coached. They play the style of football that lets you win games. And the Raiders also play that same style, right? The thing is if you want to be conservative, if you want to run the ball, if you want to kind of just take what the other team is giving you, if you want to win the turnover battle, right? That is kind of the style of football that the Ravens play. The Chargers play that same style as well under Jim Harbaugh. And the Raiders play that same style as well. And last week it didn't work for us, right? We're close to the Chargers all of last week. We just weren't able to put the game away on the offensive side. And then this week, our offense caught fire. And we're able to have success against the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm excited for that, man. I'm very, very excited about that. Flyincio said, I wonder what Antonio Pierce told Getsy at half. It did a great job. Yeah, man. I saw the image of Antonio Pierce in the face of Luke Getsy talking to him. Not anything crazy, not negatively, but just talking to him, And whatever he said, it worked, right? Another thing is Antonio Pierce also said that for the Raiders to have success, we'll figure it out on the offensive line, right? Essentially kind of putting a little bit of blame on the offensive line. I love the fact that the Raiders rotated in Andres Pete. I think earlier in the game, Andres Pete may have came in at right guard, although I'm not 100% sure where he played early on. And then at some point, Cody Whitehair came out of the game and Andres Pete went in for Cody Whitehair. And then I think at some point, maybe it was like the third or fourth quarter, Cody Whitehair came back in. I love the fact that the Raiders are not going to let the offensive linemen that are struggling stay in the game. If they're struggling, take them out. And Thayer Munford had some losing snaps, so hopefully if that continues, the Raiders make a switch and potentially put in DJ Glaze. Too Slow Bum said, great win, but our run game is awful. How do we fix that? Our run game gets better after Gardner Minshew, one, proves that he can make plays. He can push the ball downfield consistently. Two, our offensive line has to do a better job. I don't think Luke Getsy's a bad run game designer. I think last year he ranked 14th when you only factored in the actual run game, right? Not like quarterback runs. We know Justin Fields runs with the football. But last year, the Bears ranked 14th. And again, I don't think Luke Getsy is a bad run game designer, but I think our offensive line has to be better. I think one of the things with their offensive line is those guys get pushed up front. There was a third down play where the Raiders tried running it. It was early on in the game, and Andre James got straight up blown up. I'm pretty sure he even fell backwards. And, our offensive line at an individual level have to be able to hold their own. And the thing with the Raiders' offensive line is we have no bullies on the interior offensive line, right? From left guard to right guard, all of those guys are weak, right? All those guys are like 280 pounds. You have to have some bullies up front to be able to run the football, and we don't have that. I do think putting in Andres Pete and Jackson Powers-Johnson when he gets healthy will be a positive for the Raiders, and we'll be able to run the football once that happens. But I'm not sure when, Jackson Powers-Johnson will be healthy. We're not even sure what's going on with him, right? I know the Raiders have said that he has an illness, and that's why he hasn't been able to play. But, he doesn't have like the cold, right? That's not what it is. There's something else going on. And I hope it's not related to his concussions. I don't think it is, right? I think it's more likely the Raiders just don't want him to be healthy and have him like ride the bench. Maybe they're trying to give Cody Whitehair every opportunity to have success. But, I think there's a chance Jackson Powers-Johnson's our starting guard as soon as next week. Yeah, man, I think the way we fix our run game is through the offensive line. The offensive line has to be better. Brock Bowers has officially been unlocked. Absolutely, man. Shout out to Byron Caldwell. 9 catches and 98 yards, man. That's incredible. Most tight ends don't have those type of numbers. Like his second ever NFL game. And what's crazy about Brock Bowers is, sometimes you watch like, a tight end catch the ball and he doesn't look that fast. He's not making plays. He's not able to beat corners and defensive backs. He's not able to run away from people. That's not Brock Bowers, man. Brock Bowers puts his shoulder in the guys. He trucks people. And we saw that. He was trucking. He had at least one play where he ran over one of the Ravens cornerbacks. He had a couple other plays as well where he was able to out jump people. He came back to the football in that one play that got the Raiders down to the 1 yard line. And that was a third down play as well. Brock Bowers is not a normal tight end, man. And I didn't know that. I really did not know that. And I admit it, man. I was wrong to think the Raiders should not have taken a tight end after taking Michael Mayer. And it's crazy because there's no comparison, man. Michael Mayer, an average player. Brock Bowers a superstar, man. There's no comparison. Brock Bowers is different, man, and I'm excited for that. Justin Gill, shout out to you, said our best players are our pass catchers. I'm glad they finally abandoned the run to fit their personnel. I thought Lamar was going to run to the house. I almost thought that too, man. I almost thought Lamar Jackson was about to run it to the house. On the final play of the game, he took off running, and then he pitched it. And then I think the third pitch was a forward pitch, and the flag came out. And I saw Jacorin Bennett bat the pass, and I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, you got to grab the ball. But I think he probably looked at it, and I know some of you guys know what I'm talking about. I think Jacorin Bennett might have looked at it like, hey, if I bat it forward, one of the guys behind me will get it, right? And as opposed to trying to fall on the ball and create some sort of pile. But yeah, man, the Raiders get the W, and I'm excited. I'm excited that the Raiders are able to get this win because these first 2 weeks, we had to get a win in one of those two games. And the fact that we lost against the Chargers, I know everybody, including myself, was really, really down on the Raiders. Plus, the first half of this game, I was ready to give it up, man. I was ready to move forward, start looking for a new hobby. And the Raiders come back, man, and they get the win. So shout out to the Raiders, and shout out to Luke Getsy for abandoning the run. I'm still very, very hesitant with Getsy, and that's not gonna change over one half. Getsy will have to show me over and over and over and over and over again, multiple weeks at a time. Same with Gardner Minshew. I know he had a phenomenal game in the second half, but I need Gardner Minshew to just continue to be more consistent. You know, the interception he had was a really, really bad play. He was looking over to the right, but he didn't see Marlon Humphrey, who was obviously just out of his vision, right? He didn't see him. And Humphrey just came underneath it and picked it off. So I just need those two guys to continue to prove themselves. Shout out to you for becoming a member of this YouTube channel, Raider Tahai. And I know I'm saying that wrong, so I apologize for that, man. Shout out to you as always. Greg Bellamy, shout out to you, said, are the offensive line struggles, the players, the schemes, being outmatched, the communication? You can actually put a lot of that as to why the Raiders are struggling. You know, early on, Colton Miller gave up 2 sacks. His first sack, he just got beat in a one-on-one situation, but the second sack was a miscommunication. And I think people are going to overlook this because I already saw some comments on Twitter where people are like, hey, Colton Miller sucks. How do you give up that second sack? And the thing with that second sack that Miller gave up was both him and Andres Pete stepped to the defensive tackle. So Colton Miller, for some reason, stepped down, and Andres Pete stepped towards the left. So either all of those guys are supposed to step to the right and Minshew was supposed to throw the ball hot, or Colton Miller just didn't hear the call from the center. There's some sort of miscommunication maybe with the quarterback, but Miller should have stepped left. And I know it's not such a basic thing, and people are like, hey, that's very obvious. There's a guy to your left. Just go pick him up. But we got to realize with the NFL, every little thing, you know, there's calls. Right, you gotta play within what's being called because you can't have people freestyling it out there. You have to be able to play within the call. And for Colton Miller, you have to be able to get that guy, but the call on the offensive line has to be correct. So I think there's some issues with the communication part of it. I think the interior guys really, really suck. I've said this for pretty much the entire offseason. You know, I've been out on Cody Whitehair. I've been out on Andre James. Dylan Parham had this year to prove himself, and he's not terrible, but he's not absolutely great either. He's kind of just average. But, you know, the center and left guard to me are really, really bad. The Raiders should not have given Andre James that contract. I think that was just Tom Telesco not knowing the Raiders players, also thinking that, hey, there's already some, you know, positions that we got to kind of fix. And maybe he didn't want to have to worry about the center position as well. But to me, Andre James is not a good football player. And Cody Whitehair isn't either. And a part of the Raiders having struggles is, you know, sometimes Cody Whitehair might get pushed back. So if Colton Miller gives up pressure from the side, usually the good quarterbacks can step up into the pocket and throw the pass. Well, with guys like Cody Whitehair and Andre James, they're getting pushed back. A quarterback can't step up into that, right? So I think it's a mixture of all of that. I also think it's the scheme, of course, right? I think Luke Getsy has to still prove himself as a coach. Shout out to David Miller for the $5 super chat. I'm not sure if you had an actual comment, but I do see this one. You said Brock Bowers was amazing. I'm so excited to watch Brock Bowers continue to develop over his career because Brock Bowers is like 60% of the player he is today that he will be in like 2 or 3 years, right? Um, so yeah, I think Brock Bowers has been incredible. In fact, my brother called me right before I went live, and the first thing he said was, "Man, Brock Bowers was freaking amazing." 9 catches, 98 yards, absolutely incredible. And Devontae Adams too. 9 catches, 110 yards. Last week, I was seeing a lot of people saying, "Man, Devontae Adams looks a step slow this year. It looks like he might be regressing a little bit." And he went out there against the Ravens, man, and he dominated. Another thing I want to say is, Marlon Humphrey is one of the best corners in the NFL. And I'm glad that the Raiders moved Devontae to the other side, away from Marlon Humphrey, and they threw him the ball on the other side. Because you got to do that, right? You got to be able to take advantage of, if a cornerback's not going to follow a guy around the football field, you got to put your best players on the other side of the field. And I really, really wish Devontae Adams would have caught that one pass that he dropped where the Ravens brought that blitz. I think it was a cover 0 call. Devontae goes underneath, and I'm pretty sure it was designed that way because the receiver in the slot, it looks like he went like straight to block, or at least looked like some sort of screen, a natural pick play to me. And Devontae dropped it, man. And I was hurt in that exact moment. I was like, damn, man, how'd this guy drop that one? It'll probably been a touchdown too. So Black Seal Sports Talk, shout out to you, said Brock Bowers is already a top 5 tight end. The defense is real, and Minshew had some incredible throws downfield in the second half. Let's go. Absolutely, man. Could not agree more. Brock Bowers is incredible, man. Honestly, like right now, if you guys look at every tight end in the NFL, how many tight ends are better than Brock Bowers just physically? How many are better in terms of route running? How much are better in terms of being able to make plays? Like, how many tight ends are actually better than Brock Bowers right now? And I'm not talking about, they have Andy Reid as their offensive coach to design great plays. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about just like physically just looking at them. How many tight ends are better than Brock Bowers? I don't know. Is there even a tight end better than this guy? Right? Again, I know he has to, have success and improve himself, but there's just something different with how Brock Bowers moves. And I see why there are some NFL scouts that said Brock Bowers was the best player in this past class. Like, I see why that was the case. Guy's incredible. Stephen Webb said, I named my son Woodson after Charles Woodson. He's 2, and I had him yelling at the TV all game. The boy scared me in the first half, but pulled it out. Run game needs work. Possibly Jackson Powers Johnson at center. Shout out to you, man. Congratulations on your boy. I'm also having my second boy as well, probably here in about a month. My first boy is he's about to be 3 here in a couple months. We have a second boy on the way. So shout out to you, man. And I know how exciting it is, man. So shout out to you. But you said that the run game still needs work. Agree. And then possibly Jackson Powers Johnson at center. You know what's crazy is we have the best center prospect I've seen since Creed Humphrey. If you guys don't know who Creed Humphrey is, he's the starting center of the Kansas City Chiefs. Creed Humphrey was the best center I had seen in my 6-7 years of NFL draft process, right? It's essentially scouting the draft. Some of you guys know this. I work now officially for the Hula Bowl as a scout. But before that, I did a lot of work just on my own, covered the draft. I did some work for some NFL agents in the past. I still do that as well. One of the things I do is analyze offensive and defensive linemen, and Creed Humphrey was the best center prospect I had seen in a number of years. And the only guy that even comes close to him, and honestly could be better, is Jackson Powers Johnson. Jackson Powers Johnson was the best center prospect I had seen in years. I don't know why the Raiders don't put this guy in at center. To me, I think the Raiders' offensive line, if you're able to put Jackson Powers Johnson at center, put Andres Pete at left guard, I think your offensive line's set right there. Obviously, at right tackle, you can make that decision down the line with DJ Glaze and Thayer Munford. Or alternatively, you can even put Dylan Parham at center. I think Dylan Parham would be a better center than Andre James. And then you can put Jackson Powers Johnson at left guard and Andres Pete at right guard. I think that's another incredible offensive line for the Raiders as well. But we got to fix our offensive line. There's no question about it. I think most of us see that, right? And I'm glad that us as Raider fans, I know there's some people that are still saying it. I'm glad us as Raider fans can see the issues with the offensive line as well as the play calling, because, last year we're like, get rid of this guy, get rid of this guy. And I felt like it wasn't always that was the issue, right? And I think this year the Raiders have kind of proven that, if your offensive line's able to hold up, because they held up for the most part in the second half, right? I think they did a much better job. If your offensive line's able to hold up, you can have success. And I'm glad the Raiders did not bench Gardner Minshew because I know a lot of people are saying, "Hey, put in Aiden O'Connell," right? Um, and I'm glad that the Raiders got the win today. Steven, shout out to you. Say, let's put some respect on Gardner Minshew's name. Great halftime adjustment and reset. Go Raiders! Absolutely, man. We gotta and I'll go ahead and do it, man. We got to give credit to Gardner Minshew because you guys know I'm a Gardner Minshew fan. I've always been a Gardner Minshew fan. I'm not an Aiden O'Connell fan. I have not hidden that. And that's not saying that I don't want Aiden O'Connell to not be successful in the NFL. I just don't think Aiden O'Connell is going to be a good quarterback, specifically because when the offensive line breaks down, he's not going to be able to make plays. Gardner Minshew is not as good of a passer. He's not as good with maybe even reading coverage as Aiden O'Connell might be. But the thing with Gardner Minshew is the guy makes plays, right? When the pocket breaks down, he makes plays. Gardner Minshew gives guys opportunities. Gardner Minshew pushes the ball downfield. And he showed that. And the Raiders don't win this game without what Gardner Minshew did in that second half. The defense was really, really good in the first half. Absolutely incredible. But they gave up 2 touchdowns in the second half. The first 3 drives, right? The Raiders defense gave up 2 touchdowns in the first 3 drives. We didn't give up a touchdown in the first half, right? We're dominating. And the Ravens came on the second half, drove right downfield. And when the Ravens went right downfield and scored a touchdown, I felt like the momentum had shifted 100%. The Ravens were 100% in control, but the Raiders did not give up. They drove right downfield, and they didn't actually get any points because they went for it on 4th and 2. But they drove right downfield, right? And then they didn't get it. Shout out to Robert Spillane and Jacory Bennett, man. That turnover was the key part, I think, of this game because the Raiders, right after that, had the ball. They went right downfield. And this time, they're able to get a field goal. They made it a 1-possession game. And then the Ravens went downfield, and I think they got a field goal themselves. And then the Raiders went downfield and scored a touchdown. So, got to give credit to Gardner Minshew for getting it done in the second half. Got to give credit to Jacory Bennett, Robert Spillane. Bennett's the real deal as well. I remember, some of you guys might remember this. The guy that I spoke to this entire offseason, right? The guy that was at the Raiders camp, he was giving me all the information that he would see, right? He was the guy that told me he thinks Gardner Minshew wins the job. He also told me that he thinks Jacory Bennett might be our best cornerback. And I don't think that's been proven yet that Jacory Bennett's our best cornerback, but that guy was saying he thinks he's going to be better than Jack Jones. And it could be true. Like, there's a chance it could be, maybe not today, but there's a chance it could be proven true down the line, right? AP is a great coach. You can't tell me different. I agree, man. Although I've been very critical of Antonio Pierce. Yeah, man, I've been very, very critical of Antonio Pierce, but I'm glad that we're able to get this one, right? Barrow's already a top 5 tight end in the league. Absolutely. Could not agree more with Larry. Don't give up on AOC and Mayers. I definitely will not. And I don't know if you're talking about Jacoby Mayers or Michael Mayer. They basically have the same exact name. I think you're talking about Michael Mayer. I'm definitely not giving up on Michael Mayer, man. I think he could still be a really, really good tight end. I'm not sure if Michael Mayer had some sort of injury or what it is, but he hasn't been looking fast out there to me, right? To me, he's looked a little slow. And he's also struggled to run block a little bit. Last year, I don't know if you guys remember this, but last year in the beginning of the season, Michael Mayer struggled to run block, but he got a lot better down the line. And he struggled a little bit, I feel like, in this season so far. So hopefully he gets that cleaned up a little bit, and hopefully he's able to come back and have some monster games for the Raiders. I personally think the best package the Raiders should have out there includes Devontae, Jacoby, Trey Tucker, and Brock Bowers, right? I think the 11 personnel makes so much more sense than the 12 personnel. But the thing is, we have Michael Mayer, so we have to utilize him some way, right? So I don't know exactly what the Raiders are going to do, but they'll figure it out, right? They'll figure it out. I don't know if I already gave credit to Maxx Crosby earlier, but shout out to Maxx Crosby, man. Shout out to Maxx. A lot of shit talking going on this past week about Maxx Crosby. I defended him a little bit on Twitter, and shout out to Maxx, man. He was fired up for this one, and he came in and he dominated, man. 2 sacks. He got after the quarterback more than that. It's crazy because this is a game where you should not have had a lot of sacks. We knew our defensive line was going to have to slow down for Lamar, right? You're not going to just go out there and pass rush because Lamar's the type of quarterback that's going to take off running. And the the Raiders not only slowed down, but they still were able to rack up sacks, right? Maxx Crosby had 2 sacks. That might be the only sacks we actually had this game, but there were so many moments where Christian Wilkins just instantly beat the guy in front of him and got into the backfield. There were moments Adam Butler got into the backfield. I saw Nesta Jade Silvera having a little bit of success. We need to still figure out that opposite defensive end spot of Maxx Crosby because I didn't see it. The only play I noticed from opposite of Maxx Crosby was the 5-yard penalty on Janarius Robinson. It's the only play I noticed anybody on that side of the field makes. So hopefully the Raiders have that one figured out here soon. Shout out to all you guys, man, for the super chats. Molly Ma, just win, baby. $20 super chat. Absolutely appreciate that one. The Raiders also did a really good job on the tight ends. Isaiah Likely had an absolute incredible game last year, or last week, I should say. And today he had 2 catches for 26 yards. Mark Andrews, 4 catches for 52 yards. 6 catches essentially for 88 yards from the Baltimore Ravens tight ends. That's really, really good for the Raiders. Lamar Jackson had 248 yards. And I honestly feel like a big part of that came on honestly on that one drive, which was the first drive of the second half. I think he hit a couple of guys on 3rd down. Overall, man, the Raiders were absolutely getting after it. And I'm excited as the Raiders look forward. You know, 1 win, 1 loss. The loss came against a team that I think some of us can say that is it's a good team, right? The Chargers are a good team. We saw what they did to the Panthers today. Going into this next week, we got that same Panthers team, right? So we have a loss to a team that absolutely crushed the Panthers. I felt like we're better than Chargers last week. We gave that game away. We could easily be 2-0 right now. And you know what's also funny is so many people have written the Las Vegas Raiders off, and people are going to have to start talking about us a little bit again, right? So many people have written us off, and now you got to talk about the Raiders and the fact that they're not as bad as people may have actually thought, right? People are like, hey, this is a team that's going to have a top 5 pick. This is a team that's not good. And the Raiders went out there and proved it. All right. Maxx Crosby talked about it as well. It's a week-to-week thing, right? Every week it's a brand new game. It's 17 games, 4.5 months, right? It's not like, you know, the season's not going to be played in a 2-3 week span. There's 4.5 months to the NFL season. So the Raiders went out there and they got it done, man. And again, shout out to Robert Splain. He also had 10 catches and the interception. The interception was a key part that flipped the momentum. Honestly, I think the play that really flipped the momentum was after the Raiders went down and tied the game. And I shouldn't even say it flipped the momentum, but Maxx Crosby, man, stunts with, I think it was Christian Wilkins, comes underneath the right guard and gets to the quarterback. That I felt like fired up everybody. I think that was the point when I realized that the Raiders are going to win this game. I think it was that moment where Maxx Crosby got home. That was just a phenomenal win all around. I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And I know my week's going to be so much better now that the Las Vegas Raiders actually won, because last week sucked, right? Last week sucked. I think the first half of the Ravens-Raiders game was a little depressing. But the second half, man, had me fired up. George Reyna, shout out to you for the $5 super chat. Said, when do we start spending a little bit of that cap space for reinforcements? When do we see Jackson Powers-Johnson? I think Jackson Powers-Johnson will bounce back potentially this upcoming week. Again, I don't know. You know, I know the Raiders saying it's an illness. I do hope that the illness is not something related to those concussions, right? Because if it is related to concussions, that means the Raiders could actually, it means Jackson Powers-Johnson may not be healthy, like for a number of weeks. I hope he doesn't end up landing on the injured reserve because it's a serious condition or it's a serious situation. I hope the Raiders just said it's an illness for the sole purpose of the fact that they wanted to give Cody Whitehair every opportunity. But going into this next week, you know, if Jackson, it's not, you know, he doesn't have the cold, right? I think we can all agree to that. If Jackson Powers-Johnson is able to play, right, because he's not in the concussion protocol, right, obviously. So if Jackson Powers-Johnson is able to play, they got to put this guy in. We need this guy. And honestly, you know, Jackson Powers-Johnson, if you guys have watched his tape, the guy's physical. He's one of those guys that he puts his helmet into you and he hits you with his helmet. He just has to stop doing that, essentially, right? as an offensive lineman, you can limit concussions as long as you're not going full speed into guys, hitting people with your helmet. Quentin Nelson is also a very, very physical offensive lineman. He's dealt with concussions in the past, and I think you just got to tone that part of your game down. Jackson Powers Johnson, from a technique standpoint, is really good as well. So he can easily get in front of people. He can easily reach, block, and cut people off. He's very good climbing to the second level. He's very fast. So, hopefully him being at guard can kind of limit some of that. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. I would not spend any of the cap dollars on anyone. Malcolm Koonce got hurt, but he should be back come like week 5 or 6. He should be good to go this year. We might have to pay him depending on what he does the rest of the season. We have Nate Hobbs. We have Trayvon Merritt. We have Marcus Epps. We got to pay all these different guys. And the Raiders got to figure out the cap situation, right? We might not have Devontae Adams next year, right? Devontae Adams' salary cap is over $40 million. We got to figure out how to pay all these other players and make sure it fits within the cap space. And I think the worst thing the Raiders can do is go pay outside guys, right? Let's go trade for a guy and pay him $20 million. I think that'd be the worst thing the Raiders can do at this point. Let's just continue what we're doing, right? Continue having success. Don't overpay, be conservative. I think Tom Telesco already takes that approach. I think that's why he's a good GM. I know Chargers fans disagree, but it's not our fault that Justin Herbert isn't as good as everybody says he is, right? Tom Telesco went all in for Justin Herbert's rookie year after they realized that this guy has something and he wasn't able to get it done, right? And that's not our fault. That's not Tom Telesco's fault, right? Telesco has done a good job putting a roster together. Stephen Webb says, let's extend Robert Spillane ASAP. Dude is a beast. Congrats on your soon-to-be baby boy, Marshall. I appreciate that a lot, man. Absolutely appreciate that. I 100% agree. We gotta extend our guys, man. Robert Spillane was incredible. He had, I think, in total 12 tackles. The thing with Robert Spillane is they're not just tackles like a guy picks up 9 yards, right? Robert Spillane's getting in the backfield and making plays behind the line of scrimmage, right? Robert Spillane's a really, really good linebacker. And I think he's the one, if it's between Robert Spillane and Divine Diablo, you're paying Robert Spillane, let Divine Diablo walk. Honestly, I'm pretty sure Divine Diablo at some point may have gotten benched. I'm not sure if he got hurt, but I'm pretty sure he ended up getting benched, right? To me, the Raiders got to make sure Robert Spillane ends up getting his money. Maybe it's a 2-year contract. I think his first contract was also 2 years. So maybe give him 2 more years, right? Maybe it's 3 years, whatever it is. But the Raiders got to pay him and make sure he comes back because the guy's a really, really good football player. And he's one of the leaders of the defense, right? Being that green dot guy, you can't overlook that, right? So shout out to Robert Spillane. Why don't we run the ball in a single back formation like the last 2 plays of the game? Joseph Suman, shout out to you, man, for this super chat. I think we will run the ball more out of the single back formation. I'll go look back at those plays and see the exact formations. I felt that I'm pretty sure we're in 12 personnel. I'm pretty sure we have 2 tight ends on the field in those plays. We could run the ball. The thing that happens when you're Luke Getsy and you're in that formation is oftentimes if you're going to run the ball, you're going to run some sort of outside zone or some sort of wide zone. And what teams actually do is they'll blitz the A or the B. I think it's the B gap specifically. So, for example, like the Chiefs, when they played the 49ers, when the 49ers tried running those wide zone plays, the Chiefs just sent blitzes through the B gap. And that basically just disrupts the flow of that entire play. So what ends up happening is the front side edge gets set, you blitz the B gap, and the B gap essentially goes unblocked because of the way the tackle and tight end kind of reach out towards that defensive end. So when a guy blitzes that gap, there's a natural hole. So, I know it worked for the Raiders in the last 2 plays. I'll have to go back and actually look at those plays. But I do think that the Raiders do got to get a little bit more creative with the run game. I feel like when the Raiders put a guy in motion, it's almost always going to be an end around. I feel like what we need to do more of is put a guy in motion and fake the end around, right? Not give him the ball and then potentially take a shot downfield. Because I feel like every time one of the guys gets an end around or every time we do some sort of jet motion or sweep or whatever it is, I feel like their safeties are always in the backfield making plays on those plays. All right, so we got to put guys in motion and fake the ball a little bit. I don't know what the tendency on Luke Getsy is, but I'm going to assume that it's been figured out, right? So Luke Getsy just has to continue to do things a little bit differently than what he's kind of doing. And we definitely got to bring back Jack Jones. Let's see some of those comments here as well. Yosh Yazzie is saying the defense won us the game today. I agree 100%. The defense was a big part of the Raiders winning today for sure. But we do got to also give credit to the offense. You know, the defense made the stops when it mattered. The defense kept us in the game in the first half. But there was a moment in this game where when the second half started, the defense gave up 2 straight touchdowns, right? 14 points. I think there was 2 of the 3 drives. The defense gave up touchdowns. And the offense came back and they kept it close. They scored points. They drove the ball downfield. And at the point that the Raiders tied the football game, the defense stepped up and got it done, right? So the defense definitely did help us win the game. The offense also did their part. But we are a defensive team as well, right? Let's not overlook the fact that our money is spent on the defensive side a lot more than the offensive side, right? But hopefully we can change that. Hopefully it could be the offense that starts to win us some games. Shout out to my brother Cole G. He said, let's go. What a game. Dog had given up on Minshew, called for Aiden O'Connell, and that's when Gardner Minshew took it personally. I agree, man. I agree. Dog definitely gave up. And Gardner Minshew, man, I could not give more credit to Gardner Minshew for stepping up. He's just a weird quarterback, man. Absolute weird quarterback. You know, he's on fire one half, he sucks the next. Shout out to you guys, man. I'm gonna end the live here. I hope you guys all have a great week. Casey says Sally missed the game. How's the run? Your run game was terrible, man. Go check that game out. If you don't know where you can watch it, DM me on Twitter. I'll give you a link. There's a website where you can rewatch all the games for free. So let me know if you need that link. Run game was not bad, or was not good, but it was a fun game, man. It was an entertaining game. You'll be a little depressed in the first half, and the second half will make you feel a lot better. So I hope you guys all have a great week. I'm going to definitely enjoy this victory, and we'll definitely be getting some content done. We'll take a look on the offensive line, watch the tape of the offensive line specifically, and we'll look at the quarterback and the play calling a little bit as well this week. I know there's a lot of Gardner Minshew haters out there that are very, very disappointed that the Raiders didn't lose this game. I'm excited, though, man. I'm excited. The Raiders are a real team this year. I know it's not always pretty, but the Raiders are definitely a real team. They're going to be good this year. They're going to, at the minimum, win 7-8 games, right? And at the best case, maybe we win 11 or 12 games. Right? Maybe the ball flips left versus right. The Raiders pick it up, and we end up winning 11, 12 games. All right, so I'm excited, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think about the Raiders game in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time with another video.